Good morning, everyone. I'm truly excited today to be here for this fireside chat with one of the pioneers in data science, Dr. Jody Porrazzo. I am Jayashree Raja. I work as business intelligence engineer for Amazon within the Amazon Grocery Logistics Organization. I have been in the field of data science for close to 10 years now. Um, just as an advocate for diversity and inclusion in STEM fields, I'm actively involved in exploring like diverse topics ranging from gender equality to social justice, and also finding inspiration for my work in very unexpected places. It's my privilege today to engage in a conversation with Jody, whose work has significantly shaped the field of data science and analytics. In the phase where emerging technologists like myself are using models for machine learning and so on, Jody has been a pioneer in kind of starting it from scratch and kind of facilitating this for technologists like myself. As we celebrate these advancements, it's also crucial to acknowledge the importance of diversity in this field, specifically the role of organizations like Women in Big Data. It plays a crucial role in empowering women to contribute and to lead in the field that has traditionally been underrepresented by women. So, Women in Big Data's mission aligns with the broader goals of diversity and inclusion, and of course, which are essential not just for gender equality per se, but also for enhancing the richness of the solutions that we are building and also the overall impact that we create in the industry. And with this session, I hope to engage Jody in a meaningful conversation, kind of uncovering some valuable insights both from her professional life and also to understand from her experiences that can inspire us and educate us on. Just on diversity, inclusion, and also most importantly on the technology advancement that she has gone through. So without further delay, I will pass it on to Jody to first introduce yourself, but most of you, of course, know Jody. But for our wider audience, if you can please introduce yourself, Jody, and also if you can tell us why this cause is important to you, and also please take us through your journey in data science.
Well, so Jayashree, you're blowing me away right now. First of all, I'm very honored and very humbled to be invited by Women in Big Data to give this conversation, to have this conversation with all of you. I'll give you a little information about why it's so important to me. I like to invent things. Those of you at CR know that. Some of you who may not know will learn that. And one of the things I invented is a new word, and it's called skillanthropy. Skillanthropy is sharing your skill with others who are at various stages, whether at the very early beginning, because I have worked with young people as early as middle school. In fact, I mentored a very intelligent, brilliant young woman who's now, I believe, a junior at MIT. I started mentoring and working with her at the age of 14. And she blew me away when we had our first conversation, because as a Python programmer, I would hire her today at 14 years old. And I also worked with people, young women in GirlCon. Every year I have been invited to present on some emerging technology, something that is new to the field. I've presented on various subjects, including natural language processing, time series. And it is very important to me because my career was formed in the 60s, guys. I have 45 years history working in the area of science. First of all, my career is based in science. I am a scientist first, right? My background is forged in classical statistics, in experimentation, in research methodology, and that is the approach that I have used throughout my career. I think that in 3 words, if I were to say who I am, I would say first, I'm a scientist. Second, I'm an innovator. And third, I'm a trainer, because it's important to bring people along, to share my experience, and to help people forge a path that may be a little bit different from mine and maybe a little bit easier. The reason that women in big data is so important is that for the first time, we're able to have a global reach to young people. In other words, women in big data, instead of talking to people locally in the United States, we have the opportunity to engage globally. Working on data for good on a global nature is therefore empowered by this organization. And I invite all of you to look at the website. Women in Big Data Online is my chapter. I'm very proud to have been invited to be the program director for that group. Take a look at us, and I hope that you follow our journey. Well, thank you, Jay.
Awesome, awesome. That's pretty cool. Okay, so I wanted to kind of I do have a set of questions that I would like to ask, and I've structured it in like different modules. To first start off with, we would all like to know where it started for you, Jody. As in, what was kind of the motivation or the origin, right? Where it kind of started, and what initially drew you to this field of data science, and how has your motivation evolved over years? That's something that we would like to start off with.
Okay, I'm going to start you at the very beginning as a child. I've always been fascinated by science, right? Science has always been a guiding light in my journey through education. From my very early years in public school, I always wanted things like erector sets. I like building things. I like putting things together. So my cousin Jimmy was getting erector sets and I was getting Toodles dolls until I put my foot down and I said, Dad, I want a science kit. That was the start. I remember setting up all the little bottles on the side and mixing chemicals and watching things turn blue and yellow and then learning the difference between acid and alkaline. That in itself was an education, but it wasn't that easy in my early years. I'll have to tell you, in the 6th grade, I remember we were permitted to have on Fridays club days, right? And we had a choice of clubs. There was the Glee Club, the Cooking Club, the Sewing Club, there was Audio Visual, and there was the Science and Math Club. But unfortunately, the Science and Math Club was not open to young women. It was not open to the girls. It was a boys' club. And that stayed with me for my career. I was a child of the 60s. I was part of a lot of the things that you guys read about, including Woodstock, which has nothing to do with science, really, except it does in a way because I was working on the acoustics, driving the music. You could see me on the album if you look really closely. You'll hear somebody say, hey, Jody, get out of the crow's nest. It's starting to storm. If you could hear that sentence, you could find me. So it's been a long career. I was always interested in how things worked. Physics and mathematics came very, very easy. And I always said, well, I'm going to learn that. And I think what's important is to have that view from the balcony, to be able to, even as a young student, to understand that everything in a way is connected and to understand those connections and to seek them out, both on a physics level, on a personal level, on a professional level. But again, my real drive is that I am a scientist. I need to know. And that's how I started out, Jay.
Oh, awesome. That's really fascinating. Okay. So since you were talking about kind of starting off things and kind of starting your journey on innovation, and of course I understand that there would be a lot of challenges, right? So can you probably tell us about what are some of the biggest challenges you faced when the field was still emerging, right? When data science maybe was not even a term. How did you overcome that, and what was kind of your driving factor for all that?
So Jay, I think you hit it right at the core. What is a data scientist, right? In 2012, a colleague of mine, Tom Davenport, wrote a very seminal paper. It was called Data Scientist, the sexiest job of the 21st century, right? I don't know how sexy my job has been, but it certainly has been interesting. but we still have not really defined what exactly is a data scientist. And I think that that challenge still remains today. That paper, by the way, was written in Harvard Business Review. I would urge all of you to take a look at it. I believe it's a very important paper because when I started out, my background is in physics and mathematics. I started out in academia, and I moved over to data science when I realized I needed to move from an academic role and a research role into more of a commercial role. Making that jump for academicians is a challenge because as part of a research group, as I was at City University, the graduate school, when it used to be on 42nd Street, we had opportunity to explore things, to question. We were able to take side paths and side journeys. However, when I jumped into the role of a quantitative analyst for a hedge fund, things were very different. I was given a seat with 4 monitors and told to forecast. And that's what I did for 8 hours a day, 10 hours a day, right? 5 days a week. That was my role. Very, very different from being an academician and able to ask questions. It was straight delivery. And I think today the role of a data scientist is still not really well defined. Are we quantitative? Are we engineers? Are we researchers? Are we scientists? I think that a data scientist, to me, is part of all of those things and requires an instinct also and a love to keep going and take those side journeys and ask those questions. And the key is to be able to ask the right questions. When people come to us, they come with an idea. I need this, for example, in business, as a data scientist, I need this, but they really don't know what they need. And it's our job to help them ask the right question, right? And give them what they actually seek.
Awesome. Awesome. Yeah. So maybe, Jody, I'd just like to kind of expand on that. So you mentioned about the challenges that you had faced when the field was still emerging. What about the challenges that you face today, when you kind of feel that it's kind of emerged? There's a big learning curve that we have gone through. What are the challenges that we face today? Maybe if you can enlighten us with that.
So I think that as people come in the field, there's tremendous technology available to us now. I mean, my dissertation, guys, was done on punch cards, right? My dissertation was written, there were about, I think, 800 or 900 punch cards. We read it into a card reader, and then you got the answer. And I could tell you funny stories about that maybe sometime over lunch or over a cocktail at 4 o'clock in the afternoon. But today we have all this technology. And what is it? I think people coming in today use tools without a full understanding of the nature of the tools. As a matter of fact, that's one of the advice that I give to my young colleagues. People say, well, think outside the box. I'm going to turn that around. I'm going to say, think inside the box, guys. Don't let the black box be dark to you. Understand that the background and the underpinnings of artificial intelligence are really based in classical statistics. We've been doing these things for many, many years. Finally, the technology has caught up to our brains and we're able to deliver. Think inside the box. Study mathematics, study physics, study science, study the nature of things. Learn how to look at things from the inside. Take a healthy skepticism towards your work and approaching it. Don't be afraid to question what you're handed. You're handed a piece of technology. How many people actually understand how large language models work? How many people actually do? What is the basis? Well, I can give you a little bit of a hint. It starts with a B. Somebody's going to say the word out here. It's Bayesian analytics. Do we train that? Are we encouraging our young people to take studies, of course, of mathematics, not only on the engineering side? We need that to understand what's inside the box. And I think that that is the biggest challenge that we have today. We have so much being handed to us. We look at a dashboard and we trust it. Don't. take a healthy skepticism towards seeing things.
Awesome. Yeah, that actually is very thought provoking, because I don't think many of us kind of see it that way. Your perspective definitely brings a different angle. So moving on to like the technology advancements that we are seeing these days, right? You of course are hearing a lot of buzzwords here and there: AI, Gen AI, ML, and then LLMs that you just talked about. So what do you think has been a turning point in the field of data science from like a technology point of view? What do you think was like the really turning point in the industry as such?
Yes, so I think that the emerging of capabilities to enable AI, grid computing, I think emerging of those technologies have allowed us to catch up to where we are today. In other words, we've been thinking about the goal of artificial intelligence is to have some kind of a platform or a system that thinks like a human brain, right? And what is the basis of that, right? How do we do that? How do we enable that? In order for that to grow, you need to have a platform that can actually think like that, that has the memory, that has the speed, the low latency. I think that the way we've developed and evolved data science, beginning with bringing in very large data sets and then what we call big data. Big data, the emergence of big data and the use of big data in our models has transformed our thinking. I mean, we can now today use data such as weather forecasts in predicting things. There are so many questions. And again, I think that the technology is catching up to how the mind is thinking. I think that that is the most important thing that has occurred in general in the past 10 years or 15 years.
Awesome. Okay. So talking about in the past 10 years, 15 years, how the technology transformations have changed the field. What do you foresee for the next 10, 15 years? How do you see the technology advancements going specifically in this field? And yeah, I would like to kind of tap into what is your vision for that?
So I think one of the most exciting things that I've seen emerge recently is the study of biomimicry. And that may be something a little bit different. Did I say biomimicry? Got it. What biomimicry is looking at life systems and life sciences and applying things in technology and things in our everyday world to looking at systems in living beings, right? And if you think about that, for example, sonar with bats is an example. Like the way a bat uses sonar is pretty much the way our aircraft use sonar. It's based on the same thing. It's based on frequencies. So that is an example. And I think that field is one of the most interesting and exciting new developments in science and in specifically in data science, because we are going to be asked to develop emulations. And I'm thinking about all the mathematicians. How do we build these things without really building them, right? It's all about mathematics and algorithms and defining a model based on numbers. So I think that is probably the most significant aspect. I also want to say that I think that Gen AI is going to lead to more breakthroughs and more ways of making insights and information delivery to the end user much quicker. One of the things that I'm very interested in that is very, very new is the concept of conversational BI. What is conversational BI, right? 20 years ago, I was hired as a director and senior director of business intelligence, and we delivered graphs and reports and tables. But is that the way that the human mind wants to consume them? What the human mind wants to consume our things in an easy way. And so the idea of conversational BI, or delivering intelligence and insights conversationally. I mean, all of us have had experience looking at and using ChatGPT and OpenAI. Well, we can develop platforms now where a leader can tap in. Well, I want to know the top revenue producers for the week of such and such. And he can ask that question, or she can ask that question in different ways and still have it returned to them conversationally. That is cutting edge. And that is work that we are very, very interested in and watching and participating in.
Awesome, awesome. Yes, definitely very interesting times ahead. With these, Jody, we also understand that there's going to be some disruptions that we foresee in the near future. What do you kind of see as disruptions, and how do you think we should be mitigating it as a group?
I think the biggest disruption that is a positive disruption. I think the world has now shrank. Yes, I mean, we are reaching people at a very low latency. Communication has improved. I think that the biggest disruption that we can enable is by participating in groups like Women in Big Data, and the diversity groups, as were mentioned at the start of this call, and helping others to achieve greatness with their own paths and journeys, by sharing experiences, by sharing knowledge. I think that that's the biggest disruption. I'm taking it on a personal level, Jayashri, which is, you're probably looking for a technical one, but I think that that is the most important thing that we can do. We need to knock down the silos and start communicating. There are groups outside, very big companies who actually support this work. For example, and I'm not going to, I'm not trying to name, to give a recommendations, but for example, SAS Institute does have Data for Good, which is a program in which you can help solve world problems, right? Real world problems. I worked on an irrigation problem in Ghana, actually. They will actually loan you a student version of the software and give you the data so that you can experiment. That's what we need to do. We have to knock down silos, and that will be the biggest disruption that I can think of. On a technical note, I think that AI and Gen AI, conversational AI, conversational BI, getting information from the mounds and mounds and the millions and of terabytes of data that we have, getting it out to people on a level that is consumable, is going to be the most important thing. Another disruption. I think that is going to change and help us knock down those silos.
Yeah, yeah, that actually makes a lot of sense. I think we have a raised hand here from Anjali.
Sorry, that was by mistake. I
Okay,
wanted to put a thumbs up.
okay, got it. Okay, cool. We'll take that as a thumbs up. Okay, cool. So moving on, now I would like to kind of focus, now that we discussed intensively on the technology transformation that is going to be lined up, I'd like to focus on helping next gen leaders, and also here and with a wider audience. We would like to kind of ask you some questions about focused on your career, and also how you would envision the emerging technologies to shape theirs. What, according to you, should or shouldn't an aspiring data scientist do to prepare themselves for the future in a field? Let's say there's going to be an entry level data scientist who's going to start off this week. What would be your advice for them to kind of excel in this field?
So I would say that you need to hone your skills in asking the right question, right? You need to know how to ask questions. And that skill, that training comes as training for in any field of science, right? You'll learn how to ask those questions. And, looking back on my career, I came out, I was a child of the 50s and 60s. 45 years ago, things were quite different. I cut my teeth with people such as Stuart Hunter. I don't know whether people know him. David Dickey from North Carolina, the Dickey Fuller test, that's time series analytics, right? So you guys called me a pioneer, and I'm honored to be called that. And no, I did not come over on a covered wagon, but I had the opportunity to work with people like David Montgomery, George Box. I forgot his first, Wayne Fuller, right? These are tests, Dickey Fuller tests, heteroscedasticity. I can't even say it anymore. It's been a while that I've been teaching. But I think that's the advice that I would give. Learn how to ask the right questions. That is a key skill, not only for scientists, but in everything that you do. And when you ask those questions, take along some empathy for the person that you're talking with, right? Not everybody comes to the table with the same set of experiences that you have. So ask the right questions and do it as an empath. That is my advice for people coming up.
Awesome. That's great. And as kind of like emerging leaders, right? Let's say that they're in mid to senior levels and they would like to rise up to the executive level or much more. One challenge that I face myself as well is advocating for yourself. It could be for cultural reasons why you hold back, or in general, that hesitation to advocate for yourself has always been kind of prevalent. How do you effectively advocate for yourself? What would be your advice when seeking to be considered, let's say, for a new opportunity or even for a promotion in your current role? When you're a high performer, how do you kind of put that across, and how do you ask for advocate for better for yourself, and also um, how do you get a little bit more competitive in this entire corporate space? How would you suggest going about that?
So Jay, I think that this is something that women especially have trouble with. We hesitate to sort of blow our own horn, right? But there's a very effective way to do this, and that is to keep an anecdotal record of your accomplishments in your organization. For example, and remember that people may not see those accomplishments in the same way. So be very clear in how you phrase them. If you list your accomplishments and how you've helped the organization achieve even small steps, that is, to me, the most important thing. If you bring something innovative, if even if it's a small innovation, and it helps to push the needle forward, you need to be able to explain that in a way that it will get you the promotion. And as a manager, I mean, managers in general recognize when people have done something great. Be sure to align to your manager and be sure that they are. Yeah, it's a really good one coming in, Valerie. A yay folder. Oh, I like that. I don't have a yay folder. I'm going to start one with all the emails that come in to say thank you for things that that you've achieved, even on a small level. I think that's the most important thing to do.
Awesome. Yeah, I think I'm going to practice that as well, Valerie. The A folder is something that we all need to have. Okay, awesome. That was really insightful. And what do you think are the steps that you took were kind of crucial to get you to where you are today? As in, when it comes to kind of building your career, or kind of upskilling yourself, what was the most crucial step that you were very meticulous about, or you made sure that you were consistent about that kind of helped you be where you are right now?
I've never stopped learning, and I've never stopped questioning. Those are the two things that in my career in 45 years, I am constantly learning and seeking those experiences. I work at companies where I am enabled to seek those experiences. All the companies that I've worked at have been very supportive in continuing education. And that has enabled me. My philosophy for my team is to prepare them for their next role. And therefore, they stay because they are constantly learning. We all need to learn, no matter what level we are at. I have an earned PhD with a background in physics and mathematics, achieved at a time when it was very, very difficult for anyone, especially a woman, to achieve that. But that was just the start. With that background, I learned to question, bring a healthy skepticism, to be optimistic about things and about the way their things are going to work out, but always to question and to learn and to take those opportunities. Attend a conference. If you can't go, if you can't travel, then do something online. Find those opportunities. Ask people in your organization who have knowledge about things to maybe help you find places. Take online courses. Not everybody can go back to school. Coursera is a great, and again, I'm not giving a plug for it, but Coursera is a great platform for looking at courses in data science. Get onto the platforms that challenge you. Another thing that I find for young people starting on their careers, enter data competitions. They're out there. You could just look at them up. You'll find competitions, and you'll have a chance to do your own innovation, no matter where you are at any level of your career.
Yeah, I think that will also be a good opening point for networking, right? So
Yes.
the datathons are a good place to kind of showcase your skills and the innovation path, and also to network with peers. So yeah, that's fantastic. Okay, I just have one concluding question before we could open up the space for any questions from our wonderful audience. So reflecting on your career, Jody, what is that one piece of advice you wish you had received when you started out? We discussed about the advices that you would give out, but what was one advice you wish you received early on in your career?
I guess not to be so hard on yourself. I was very hard on myself. I mean, I wanted to achieve. I wanted to achieve, and I wanted to do it all, and I wanted to do it quickly. There's no such thing as a quick road to success. Believe me, guys. I mean, there's not. My feeling is that I think that when I softened my feelings towards myself, I was able to do more. And that's the advice. Accept that, and also accept that you have a life outside of work and study. Remember, I was a mom. I had two children. When I went back to school, I had two kids in school, and it was difficult. But I always managed. Family first is what comes, which is really important, and to forgive myself. I think that those are the things that in my day, there was no such thing as family leave, or you had a kid or your kid was sick. You sucked it up, and we didn't have things that we have today. There were no daycares. We didn't have that. So life was very, very different. I think take advantage of the support that you have outside, and don't be afraid to ask for help, right? I think that's what if somebody had said that to me a long time ago, if we had that support system, I would have taken it.
Wonderful. That actually hits on a different level because it's a great advice for a young mom like myself as well, who has two toddlers. I think this is going to be helpful on a professional level and also on a personal level. So thank you so much, Jody, for that. Yeah, definitely wonderful, wonderful suggestions. Okay, so with this, I'm going to kind of open up the space for all our attendees to ask any questions that you have for Jody, and we'll take it up from there. Any questions, you can unmute yourself, and if you'd like, you can come on video and please go ahead. Hi, Sangeeta.
Hi, thank you, Jody and Jayashree, for a wonderful session. It's not a question, but Jody is a living proof on how much impact you can make in another person's life and career with a small gesture, right? And I do have to state this for the record. I used to work with Jody, I've worked with Jody long back, right? I was on her SaaS analytics team, and we used to have calls over the phone. And one time, I mentioned my daughter was in the car with me when I was dropping her, and she asked me, "Mom, who's that?" And I said, "She's a data scientist." And she's like, "No, that can be true." She was very little. She was like, "Oh, there are physics people and chemistry scientists. There's no data scientist." And Jody said, "Put her on the phone with me," right? And that started a relationship like no other, right? It's been a phenomenal ride, and my daughter is where she is today thanks to Jody. So I think this is all for us to learn from her and give back to our community, right? To people around us. How much Jody has enriched other people's lives. My daughter has arranged so many events, and there are so many kids that have benefited from her knowledge. I still have the recordings. So she's phenomenal, and it's a lesson that we need to learn from her to give back. With
Um,
that, I'll go on mute and let others ask questions.
Sangeeta, your words are too generous. So Sangeeta is referring to her daughter Anisha. That was the young lady that at 14 years old was programming in Python, writing models. What I did encourage was for her to study statistics and math. I did say that. And she did. And by the way, she was a winner in multiple competitions. We did some data competitions. Giving back is very, very important. Helping others is very important. And no matter how you do it, philanthropy is something that we should all get degrees in. We should all have a degree in that. Yes.
Awesome.
I think
Hi.
we have.
Hi, I'm Dina. I currently work for Jody at Consumer Reports, and I agree with everything Sangeeta said. She's a phenomenal role model in both professional and personal life. And I'm going to start tearing up here. So I'm going to get to a question, Jody, that I've always wanted to ask you, and we're always busy working, and so it's never. When we talk about personal stuff, we don't talk about work. So, and when we talk about work, we talk about stuff we have to deliver. So one thing I've always wanted to know is, data science is hard. It's a hard field to be in for anyone. And especially for women still, it's a tough field sometimes. So what I want to know is, were there ever any times in your decades-long journey that you were going to leave the field? And if so, what was that, and how did you convince yourself to stay?
I could honestly say I've never, ever wanted to leave the field. I have wanted to leave my role. And I have. And that's something, what I've learned is that if you don't take a job for the company, you take a job or a role for the person that you are working with. I have had tremendous, tremendous bosses. I've had fabulous, fabulous mentorship from them. And then there have been times that managing up was just too difficult and took too much of my soul. And in those cases, I had to make a decision and walk away. Don't be afraid to walk away. But you don't take a role. I mean, you try to go for a company that you love you love what the company stands for, the mission, and you love what the company does. But be very careful and choose the person that you're reporting into, because that person could help you or not. That's my advice, Dina.
Thank you. Thank you for that.
That was a hard question.
I've learned from the best to ask the right questions.
You ask good ones. I feel like we have one. Lila.
Hi, Jody. My question is, given that data science is a very technical field and the work that you and your colleagues do can be very technical, how do you overcome the barriers to explaining your work or your findings to people who are not in your field and to business leaders?
That's something that we are still learning. I think you never can stop learning because things keep growing technically. I think that you need to know your audience, right? And you need to have the opportunity to fail. In other words, make mistakes. Communicating sometimes to people who are outside of your area can be daunting. I'm a data scientist. I'm a scientist. I'm a researcher. I'm a mathematician. I am not steeped in the knowledge of how to frame questions on a business level. I have to really work hard to do that. And when I write a deck, when I put together a deck, I'm very, very cautious, and I still make mistakes. I can tell you that even though 45 years in, I still make mistakes. But unless you do it and keep doing it and not get discouraged when you're off the mark. And your friends will tell you when you're off the mark. I think that's an important thing too. As part of that, when you are off the mark, listen to the feedback and take the feedback, think on it, thank the person for the feedback, and then either revise or maintain your direction. I think that's very important in maintaining that conversation.
Thank you.
Sangeeta.
Thank you, Jody. I think there's a question on the chat from Anjali. How did you manage to navigate through difficult times? Thank you, Anjali, for your question.
I'm not afraid to say I don't know. I'm also not afraid to ask people for help. And I could ask anyone for help. I could also say, guys, I don't really know the answer to this. I think that looking for support is something that we as women tend not to want to do because we have to be strong. And I think that is a challenge in itself, because in some environments and in some work environments, asking a question and admitting that you don't know something is seen as a sign of weakness. But I think that if we can just get past that and be willing to be vulnerable to people that we trust, understand that there are rooms that you can talk in and you can vent. There are other rooms you can't. Being able to ask for help and being able to explain where you are in a difficult situation to the right people is something that's very important that will help you get through those difficult times. Hope that helps, Anjali.
Thank you, Jody and Sangeeta.
Awesome. Okay. I think we are on time, but if there's yeah, go ahead.
Hi, I'm Al Virgo. I lead the analytics team for Consumer Reports on the marketing side. And when Jody joined a few years ago, she was definitely a breath of fresh air. And somebody would ask me, what do you think of Jody? And I'd say, she is a ball of fire. I said, enthusiastic, knowledgeable, innovative, energetic, unstoppable. That's how I would describe her. So speaking of unstoppable, I was just wondering, you mentioned the club when you were in school, but do you have a specific example, another specific example of where somebody told you, no, you can't do that, maybe because you're a woman and in science, and you just, push through and persevere?
Yeah, so I'm going to tell you the rest of that story, Al. You're going to laugh. You're going to have a good joke here. So my father taught me and told me from when I was a little child that I can be and do whatever I wanted. Whatever, the world was mine. I can do whatever I wanted. I mean, he taught me, I learned math at my father's knee. Before I went to school, my father taught me statistics on the Yankees. I mean, I know more about the early Yankees than many people do today. And when I told him, Daddy, they won't let me join the math and science club. They want me to join the glee club or the sewing club. So he said, well, that's not right. And he asked me to, he said, I'm going to come in and talk to the assistant principal. So I said, no, Daddy, don't. But of course, I didn't want him, because he was pretty upset. And he comes into the assistant principal, and Mrs. Siegel says, look, we do not permit, the math and science club is a boys' club. It is not for girls. We do not feel that it should be at this point, both boys and girls. And my father said, but that's ridiculous. She's at the top of her class. Why can't she choose the club that she wants to go to? My scores were better than anyone else in the 5th and 6th grade in mathematics. And she said, we just cannot do that. And she said to me, Josephine, that's my real name, guys, Josephine, whatever other club you want, you can have. Now, I want to tell you, in 6th grade, I wasn't much bigger, and I certainly was much tinier than I am today. I was maybe 5 foot tall and a little tiny petite girl. And I said, whatever club I want. And my father says, no, she wants the math and science. I said, no, Daddy, this is okay. I said, Mrs. Siegel, whatever club I want. So she said, of course, whatever other club you want, you can have. And I said, great, audio visual. Now, for those of you who know the audio visual squad, these are the guys that are the big guys that move around the film things and all the stuff, and they also get to carry the flag during assembly. We used to go to assembly once a week with a white shirt and a blue bottom, and the boys would carry the flag. I carried the flag. The teacher that was in charge of the audio-visual club was also the math teacher. He was in charge of the math program. So he knew. I walk into the club, there's all these boys, and here I am, and they're saying, what are you going to do? I said, I'm going to carry the flag. I carried the flag. And so you can do whatever you want. If you really put your mind to it and persevere and ask for help when you need it, right? Al, thank you for that question. You're bringing a tear to my eye. I'm thinking of my dad, too. Yeah, assembly day. White blouses with the blue tie. Yes.
Awesome. Do we have any more questions?
No questions, but to add to what Al mentioned, 30 seconds. So there was a time when Jody, it was a weekend, it was a Friday. Jody had injured her hand. I don't know what was it, Jody, something with your hand. You were in a cast, and she had a presentation on Monday. And then she goes, Sangeeta, it was a Saturday morning or a Sunday morning, I don't remember. She's like, are you free? I need your help. I'm like, Jody, you are in a cast. You're not supposed to be doing anything. But she's like, can I tell you? Can I tell you what to put in? And you can just type that in. And I want to do this presentation Monday. That's the word, unstoppable, right? And I think we ended up doing that, right, Jody? This was a few years ago.
I remember that. I remember calling on you, and I do remember that help. And I did deliver that deck. I did. And so we were okay. Yeah.
I have one more question, and it's to do with being a mother and being, in such a demanding field when you did that. Can you just describe like one time where maybe motherhood and career clashed in your time and how you handled that? I think that would be very interesting.
Yeah. So I always abided by the word family first. So I really have no example of where there was a true clash. I can tell you what it resulted in. So as I said, when I graduated and I was ready to, in my career, I had children then, right? There was no such thing as daycare, and preschool was for children who were, diaper trained. It wasn't the way it is today. So I gave up my career. I elected to drop out and stay at home and raise my children. That was my decision. And from that, when I re-entered the field, I was behind and I had to make up time. My kids were older, but they were set. My mom was retired, right? So I had help. So I was very grateful, and she loved to be with my children. And my older boy was already on his way to Stuyvesant High School, so it was okay. But I lost many years from my career at a time when women were progressing, and the repercussions of that was that I was very hard on myself. I had to achieve, until one day, one of those magnificent managers had a conversation with me over lunch. And the conversation was, Jody, and let me tell you, I was not easy. I was not an easy person early in my career. He said to me, don't lose that mother aspect of you. He said, because people were gravitating towards me to learn, and I was always very willing and to share my time. He said, but don't lose that mother aspect, because I was trying to deny it. I was trying to push it in the back. That was very profound to me. And after that, I took it. And Dina, you're on my team. You know how I treat you. I worry. I am the mother. I am the manager, but I do worry. I have not lost that when it comes to my team. I will always have a team. And the way I approach it is to help, to help people grow into their own careers. Yeah, hard question. I feel like I'm watching a popcorn cooker pop, like I'm waiting, like the questions aren't coming in so quick. Pop.
Awesome. I think you inspired us to become that leader with empathy, Jody. Your stories and you treating your the people who report to you, be it individual contributors or the team under you, you're treating them as like individuals and not just as headcount. I think that speaks a lot. And I think that's something that we all need to take away from this session, which has been truly, truly inspiring for all of us here.
Thank you, Jayashree. I want to thank everyone for attending this session, and for sharing my story. I mean, many of you have heard my story. Some of you have anyway, I think, who are on this call. But many of you have not. Thank you for being part of the conversation, and my credentials are available. You're welcome to reach out. I'm happy to work with any of young people or older people who are looking to make a change in their job. Just give me a holler, and I'll definitely respond.
Awesome.